Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Creatives Ignite. And it's a special Saturday episode. And I'm excited because I have a father-daughter duo. And I had met Harrison at another conference year before or something. And then I got to meet his wife then, Stephanie, right? Is that right? Yeah. And then at Creative South 2023, hey Maura, I got to meet Sophie made my Creative South 2023 so much better. And she is such a joy. And since we're doing something about products, which again, product design means something different to a lot of people, and I'm trying to like bust all the things because it's a lot of different things. So we're talking to Sophie and Harrison Mills all about a venture that they have, and they've created a company. And so we're going to talk about their products. So I'm so excited to have you both.
Good to be here. Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
All right. So Sophie, I want to ask you, and I just asked you this a second ago, but how old were you when you started drawing this frog?
Well, let's see. I was probably 10 when I started drawing him. And he kind of came about. I got some new pens for my birthday, and we're all kind of drawing on this piece of paper, and then I drew him when I was.
And so then this was just kind of a random, it wasn't like, let's make a company, make some drawings, right?
No, yeah, it was random.
Okay, so then from there, and either one of you can answer this, but from there, so 2 years ago, or almost 2 years ago, because your birthday's this month, almost 2 years ago, how long from that first drawing, which I know we're going to see in a minute, to starting kind of something and creating the first kind of product? Maybe it was just a sticker, but how long?
It's probably about a couple of months or so.
Oh, so not that long. So she drew it. How long did you decide, hey, I'm going to put this in Illustrator and vectorize it? Like, how long was that then?
It was I think it was around about a month and a half later or something
Because
because
she kept drawing the same little frog, or
yeah, that was kind of part of it. She kept drawing and because I noticed it and I said, that's a pretty funny frog. That's a good looking little frog that you have there. And I said, he looks kind of grumpy. And so that's kind of how we started moving into that naming of Grumpy Frog, or GC Grumpy Frog, which is
right. So it's the deeper name, which I was like, I don't know. I need to ask what this GC is. I want to make sure it was safe for my audience, But Sophie, tell us what GC stands for.
It stands for Gordon Cornelius Grumpy Frog.
Do you know anybody named Gordon or anybody named Cornelius?
No.
So I did have a teacher in high school. His name was Gordon, but nobody that
nobody that's related to y'all or anything.
Correct.
It wasn't after a old grandparent or something. So that's good. All right. So Harrison, you are a designer. That's what you do for a living. So it's not just some random thing that you're like, my kid drew a really cool frog, and then I'm going to figure out Illustrator. So you already had a lot of these skills. But I think that to me, it's inspiring for other parents who have kids who are drawing, maybe taking it to a next level. So can you give us a little bit of background about so making stickers and then starting a business are kind of that's not like first we made sticker and then the next step, of course, business. Like there's something else that kind of comes in. So what was it? And was it Sophie that was like, let's do this? Or was this kind of a, hey, Sophie, do you want to do this? Or how did starting the business kind of come up?
Um, to begin with, did you want to jump in on any of that?
I started giving the stickers to my ballet class out to some of
Just
my
for
friends.
fun, right?
Yep. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, oh my goodness, this is so cool.
So you saw some response that maybe you weren't expecting.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
How did that make you feel when other people had your frog on their water bottles or they got excited about it?
It made me feel happy.
You know what, Sophie, no matter how many times I made something or how old I am, it still makes me happy too to see somebody using a design that I've created for them. It's just it, so it's really nice that you get to share some of your joy, right, with these people, but then it's really it there's some pride that goes with it, which is in this case I think is a great thing. And it's just really cool to see your frog on somebody else's stuff, right? Even your hat. Okay.
Yep.
So I'm repping my grumpy frog today. So,
Yeah.
so how long then from how many sets of stickers, Sophie, did you give out before your dad was like, hey, I think we want to start a business?
Um, well, no, I gave out some grumpy frogs and I gave out some Cecils. And then that kind of started in, right?
Yeah. So, and I've got some different little slides.
Yeah, you want to take us
So,
through there so then
yeah,
we don't know who Cecil is. So you're
sure.
just good with making names up for these characters. Is that right, Sophie?
Yeah.
It helps a lot as
Mhm.
well.
Okay, good.
Well, so.
Welcome to Moss Bottom Hollow. This is basically later on we discovered that this is
Where they live.
yep, decided that this is the town that Grumpy Frog and all of his friends and relatives live in.
And that's just a made up town?
That's a made up town. Yep.
Sophie
Yep.
made it up?
It
Or
was
was
a
this
kind of it was both decisions, just kind of collaboration.
Yep.
Because brainstorming is one of the best things to do to generate good ideas is back and forth. So this is the original. This is the OG Grumpy Frog. This is the first drawing that um, she has done that kind of started it all. And let Sophie walk you through this little comic.
How big is this, Sophie?
Wait, how big is what?
The drawing. Was it on like a regular 8.5 by 11 piece of paper?
Yeah, it was big.
Okay. Okay.
So one night, like I said, we were just drawing with some pens that I had gotten for my birthday, and I started drawing this little frog, the very first one where he's slapping on the fly without a hat. And then I kind of started like drawing him like he's going to sleep, and then he like falls off his lily pad.
I see that one. That one is really good.
And so this is where it all started. And then later on that year, we ended up going to there's an event that was going on. I think it was in October.
Yeah, it was in October.
Called Glizzy Fest. It was a hot dog festival, and there's somebody over there that Sophie's with that you might recognize, Mike Jones. He was selected to do one of the panels for Ink Wars that they had. And Sophie, Mike, and I were hanging out and drawing. He was getting prepped. And so Sophie was drawing a grumpy frog. And Mike said, hey, I think I'm going to put him in my drawing. So as you see there's Mike's stylized version of
Right.
Gordon Cornelius.
And Gordon Cornelius looks very scared going down that hot dog slide.
and so between this time is when we started having the stickers made and the first run and so
And these were just low quantity. You weren't
yeah,
really thinking
these are low
anything of it.
quantity. Yep. Just
Somebody's running a sale,
yeah.
right?
So yeah, there's a company that we get a lot of our stuff from called Sticker Mule. They were running like a 50 run of 53 inch by 3 inch stickers for like $19. So
Which
that's
they do that a lot, right? The different
yeah.
kinds of stickers,
Yep.
holographic or glitter
Yep.
or and companies do this to give promotions to let people try it for
Hmm.
a low cost. So $20 for 50 stickers is pretty great.
It is. And so that's when we started kind of, I guess, for the best unknowing to us is kind of a test run, so to speak, as far as the product goes. There was well received by Sophie's friends. So we started to expand from Grumpy Frog to his friend Cecil Salamander, which Sophie can tell you a little bit about Cecil.
So Cecil, he's Grumpy Frog's friend, and he's very talkative. But you know, Grumpy Frog, he's asleep late, pretty grumpy. I don't want to talk too much early in the morning. Whereas Cecil is an early riser, and he's very talkative. I even did a comic where it's like Cecil's coming like early in the morning and he wakes up Grumpy Frog and he's like, let's go get breakfast. And Grumpy Frog like slaps him with his tongue, like, go away. And so Cecil kind of comes up a lot of times when Grumpy Frog is not in the mood for him.
Yep.
He's very, very talkative.
I love it. So then who's the other friend here?
So right here we have Bubba Q. He's Grumpy Frog's cheerful brother and he loves barbecue, as you can see from the little barbecue sandwich in his hand.
Yep.
And Mr. Mike actually kind of helped us come up with that one. He
Oh,
said, "Could
that's
you do a frog with barbecue?" I was like, "Sure, we can do that."
Hmm.
I
And
like
so
that he's happy.
Yeah.
yeah. And then later on with some of these others, so Bubba Q, he runs a barbecue shack. So we decided what would that look like as far as the logo is concerned. So we're starting to get into world building here,
Mhm.
the story of the characters, and then Moss Bottom Hollow is where they live, and what does a Moss Bottom Hollow city logo kind of look like, and then also just the lily pad within itself is another little icon that is very um, good focal point, just kind of unique. It's kind of part of the whole area because he's on a Grumpy Frog's on a lily pad, and you got the little
Mhm.
flower there too. And
Well,
then
I love that you're able to create these stories, like going with your imagination, Sophie. Your dad's able to create some of the brands or the world that kind of goes with it. What a neat collaboration. Even if nobody else was around, that's just a really neat father daughter kind of fun thing to do. So
yeah,
after you like how long after the um first sketch to this time, like did this take a year or over a year to create these little
these I think the first to these characters right here, I think that we were in about 6 months, I guess, in from initial drawing. Because one of the things too was not only did we get the response from Sophie's friends, but also um, Mike Jones was also a big proponent in encouraging Sophie, like, hey, these are cool. And why don't you take a look at some more, stickers? So he kind of helped to encourage us a little bit with that. And that's kind of how we wanted to have fun with it anyways in general. And so that's how the world started to begin to grow. And so originally to begin with, we had to start off with, we had these three stickers: the Grumpy Frog, Cecil Salamander, then Bubba Q. And then we had two unique stickers, which were metallic colored stickers of one of Grumpy Frog and one of Cecil Salamander. Because, who doesn't like shiny stickers, right?
Right. And those, did you do just the 50 again, just the testing small run kind of thing? Or were you like, at this point, you're like, maybe this is a business? Because at this point, even 6 months in, you're just making things. This is something that you and her are doing together. It's not a business necessarily yet. You got encouragement. There are some other stickers, but you can still kind of do the $20 investment. And then just kind of give them away. So when did it become a business? Like, when did you decide, hey, we're going to sell these?
We were encouraged again by Mike because we have connections with him. He said, hey, if you want to, come set up a booth at Creative South. And so when he suggested that, we're like, okay, why not? I'm already had a pass to go to Creative South. I was going anyways. So that took care of vendor fees. And so we set up a table.
So what did you think did you even know really what this was going to be, where you were going to have your stuff for sale? What was that like for you?
Well, I was a little bit nervous at first, but I was also really excited. I knew that Daddy had gone to Creative South, but I didn't really know much about it. Never actually been to it before.
But so you were nervous, but it was mainly because you didn't know what it was going to be like.
Yeah.
So then when you're like, oh, wow, it's a table. And did you have to work to create some new things for your shop?
A little bit.
We pretty much kept things simple to begin with. So it was, see if I have the first, yeah. So this was vending. So to begin with, we kind of try to keep sort of a theme. So this was just a test run. Like, what would our table kind of look like? We went to.
I love those moss things. Like, I don't know. They look like Hobby Lobby, like you went and had some crafty time, but 100%. It looks so much fun.
Yep.
Anyway.
That's you're right. We went to Michael's. They had a big, there's a sale on some of the moss pieces and the boxes, the little crates. So we found just thinking about the decor on the actual table, what it would look like. Now, since I work at a out-of-home advertising company, I got a little bit of perks, and that's how I was able to get the table runner down there in the middle with GC Grumpy Frog on there. We were able to get that printed out. So that's one of the other things starting off. Use the things that you have and the connections that you have to help, cut down costs.
And you weren't really inventing the wheel at this point. You were just taking Grumpy Frog and putting him on a very basic kind of background, but you were setting the scene.
Yep.
Which again, it doesn't have to be so elaborate at some points, right?
Right.
Just to get started.
And since these are just small accoutrements to set up the booth, the kind of setting up the booth was something that sort of would help to set the mood of, the whole user experience of coming up to the booth and seeing these little characters. And we had a few hats made that were embroidered hats. And see, I'll escape out of here, stop sharing my screen. But we had the original Grumpy Frog hat that was embroidered on. And we had one with the lily pad embroidered on as well. And then we also had these dad hats that were donated to us because we had somebody who wanted to see Sophie succeed.
Oh,
And so,
nice.
yeah. And so those are some of our beginning, like the first run of stuff at Creative South, 2023.
So 2024, it got a little, you added more things, and you were, this is not your first podcast. You have been on others. So I didn't catch you at the beginning, but I am a huge fan. So Sophie started on paper. And I always think it's fun to kind of ask people like what they prefer. If they're more analog, which means like drawing with pencil and pen and markers on paper, or you design things on Procreate or the iPad. And I know your dad has the cleanup. He's got the production. You're like, I'm done with another. Here, draw this in the computer. But right now, you are not using Adobe Illustrator. Your dad hasn't taken you to that level of learning the programs, right? But
Yeah.
you have used the iPad.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so what is your thought on how that works now of drawing on the iPad versus on paper? And do you have a preference, Sophie?
I definitely like drawing on paper a lot better than on the iPad.
Because you have cool pencils and pens and markers?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So then for you, Harrison, was that like I just took a picture with my phone and I scanned it in? Like, what was your process to get him on your computer? Like, was it?
That was basically, taking a picture, bringing it in, dropping it into Illustrator. Yeah.
And redraw.
And just redraw or just have reference to take a look at and go from there.
Okay. So then when she's creating these other characters, when do you decide I'm going to vectorize this one? Like, when did Cecil get life? Was that after prodding? Like, Sophie's like, can you make Cecil? Can you make Cecil? Can you make Cecil? Or is it like, let's do Cecil today or something?
Yeah, I mean, that's basically let's do it. I mean, it's been kind of most of this has been we're on an adventure, we're having fun with this. Let's see where this goes. Why not this or why not that? Or what if? That's another big, what if he has a friend, or what does his friends look like? So Sophie likes frogs and toads are one of her favorite animals, and we like salamanders too. Those have been fun to see around, going out and exploring. And so, because they're both amphibians, it just kind of made sense of Grumpy Frog having a friend that's another amphibian, which is, salamander.
Okay, so Sophie, from at this point, you do Creative South. You sit there the first day. You have some things to sell. I wasn't there at this point, but you made my year. I only could go for one day because that's when my mom's funeral was, and so really, it was just such a blessing to eat dinner with you because you just made my day. It was awesome. So I didn't really get to see what your booth was like until the next year, but. So what was that first experience like for you, Sophie? Because you weren't alone, like your dad was doing other things, but your mom was there with you. I actually do think I went by that booth. I remember where y'all's booth was. So I went by before, but it just blanked out of my mind. Okay. So Sophie, how did you feel? Because you had to interact with a lot of people.
Well, I was a little nervous at first because I used to be really shy, but that kind of, because everyone was so kind and encouraging, that really broke the ice, and I was able to just start to fluently be able to talk to people.
That's awesome. So before, if you were describing yourself as a 10-year-old going to Creative South, you were going with your mom, and I mean, your dad was there too, but he was doing other things. Your mom was right there with you most of the time. So you're there, somebody comes up to your table and starts talking to you. How do you get over that first, like, oh my goodness, I have to talk about this? Like, was it just repetition, or is there anything you would tell somebody else who was a 10-year-old that was thinking about doing this, just to give them encouragement?
Well, just I guess kind of think about what like more of your characters
Mm.
and like just kind of dive in. Because the first one I just was like, okay, and I just dived in and started talking about them. And as I did, I started feeling better
Oh,
about it.
that's good. That's a good tip, I think.
It was
Okay.
kind of like it was sharing the story and sharing the world, like here introducing the characters. Somebody would come up, she would say, hey, this is my creation, this is Grumpy Frog, and this is his best friend Cecil Salamander. And so that way the individual who comes up, um they're not just looking at products, but now they're seeing a world, they're seeing the characters, they're seeing a story unfold in front of them, which now, when Sophie would start to talk about that, the person would then at least get a little bit more interested in, like, oh, there's something more behind just a little character that's been made.
Mm-hmm. Now, do you like to hold frogs?
Yeah.
So you live near the water. You live near the Chattahoochee River.
Yep.
But the Chattahoochee River is pretty
Yeah.
powerful at that place in the river. It's not like this little tiny stream, but there
Yeah.
probably are lots of salamanders and lizards and frogs
Yep.
all around. So you have no problems touching those things. And
I
that
don't.
was for years before you were okay with this, right? Or
I've been
Okay.
fine for like a long time. Like people say toads give you warts. I was like, I've been picking them up for years. I don't have warts. So it's like
I think that's an
I don't
old
know,
wives' tale, right?
Yeah.
we have
Go ahead.
we had a toad called Nubs that we found, and he didn't have any back feet. He just had back legs. And so I kind of got a little practice, and we also have two toads now because unfortunately Nubs passed away. Herbert C. Dumpling and Gustav Percival Plumpkin.
Are you sure they're boys? Did you
Yeah,
take
they're
them to
boys.
the vet?
No, the way you can tell is girl toads don't squeak and boy toads do.
If you hold them kind of gently squeeze them on their sides, they'll give this little chirp chirp kind
I'm a
of.
boy.
Yep.
Stop squeezing me. Okay. Oh, I didn't know that. That is interesting. Okay, so yeah, that's really cool though. Nubs. I had a cat without a tail, and I called her Nubbin. So, but she lived for, I don't know, 14 years. She was my favorite.
Hmm.
Anyway, but they don't all live forever. But
Yeah.
anyway, but it's just how it goes. But I sure love that they're in our lives, you know?
Mhm.
Okay, so what other types of events? So you did Creative South. Was that your first venue to go to?
Yes,
Okay,
it was.
so then after that, did you sell out?
No, we didn't sell out.
But we
Okay.
did well though.
Yeah, we
So
did very well.
Did you, from that, did you have an idea of what products worked well or better or?
Yes.
Okay, so what worked well for that kind of creative audience?
Probably a lot of people liked the Grumpy Frog and especially the shiny ones.
Did you have magnets at that point? That's what this one is.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we did have the Grumpy Frog magnets. Yep.
I can't
Yeah.
remember when I get things. I just like to get them. So,
Mhm.
But yeah, and the Cecil salamanders as well. A lot of those sold well.
so you come home, you kind of analyze your inventory, and you decide what kind of decisions do you make after this first event?
So we take a look at what has sold well. So we kind of mark that down. And if we had extra inventory, we don't need to purchase any further. I think we came out in the black, or at least came out even from what we had
Now,
spent.
did you have a storefront, like a online store at this point?
No.
Okay,
Yeah.
so this
It's
is
not.
just really, you're just testing to see if this, Sophie's friends like it. You're in Columbus, so
Mhm.
it's not like you really had to go very far.
Right.
But it was just kind of like, okay, we're not going to repurchase this kind of things. But you've expanded since then,
Yeah.
right?
And so some of the other things, because we were there with a bunch of other vendors, and since uh, Creative South is basically vending for designers, other creatives, you've got other vendors there to go through and take a look at what are the things that they have. So part of it is also uh, asking some of the other vendors, like, hey, what does well with your shop? Um, we were thinking about doing this. So talking shop with other people who are there is another key thing that we did. And of course, we've got Sophie, so who doesn't love Sophie? So they're ready to help out, however, possible. And that's one of the great things that I will say going to an event like Creative South is that, big support that's there.
Yeah.
People do want to see you succeed, and they definitely want to see somebody like, Sophie succeed. And so that's how we were able to get some of the things like, well, maybe we should try some of this or maybe try that. And we just started slowly again making decisions on, like, for instance, the hats. The first year, our overhead for the hats were more. I think we only made only a small percentage off the hats because the overhead was so much because it was a short run. I got them from a company, local company, and
They're just more expensive, right? Unless
right.
you buy more or you.
Right. And so I went in and I researched because I was sitting here thinking, okay, for one of these hats, it's there. I'm being charged about, I think at the time, $18, $19. And so that's not much of a margin. And that's one of the things you got to figure out, like how much are you making? And so some of the exact same hats that the company that I had purchased the hats from and got the embroidery done, I was able to find the hats for $4 a piece.
Just doing some extra research.
Right, doing some extra research. There are wholesalers out there. There are other just blank. We can just buy blank inventory, and you can get the same hats or inventory for much less than what somebody will charge you because they've got to buy it wholesale themselves, and then they've got to
Right.
have a markup, and then a markup for their services, which understand. And if they're not doing huge volume, then
Right. So then you started piecing things out and then doing some of that
Mhm.
sewing
Right.
yourself,
So
right?
yeah, like the hat that you're wearing there, those I hand stitched, or they're not hand stitched, but machine stitched by hand. I was the one that did those hats and some of the other hats from this past Creative South.
That's cool. So and it's a I mean my hair doesn't look so
Patch.
great,
Yeah.
but yeah, it's a really great patch. I
Mhm.
love the dad hat. I mean I might have to really
Yeah.
my end is really far in, like because
Mhm.
my head's small, but I think that so when you're figuring out does this hat work or does this hat did you one thing I wonder is did you take some time and invest and just buy one hat to see what it was going to be like from that vendor or did you just take a risk
Yeah.
and get
Well,
a small number?
so same kind of thing with being there at the vendor hall and vending. So reach over here. So this hat right here, it's a barbecue shack hat. It's a trucker style hat, but the mesh in the back is
Soft.
it's a soft mesh. This is almost fabric like, and as opposed to the first run hat, this is the plastic, very rigid.
Yeah, it
Uh,
kind of sits up off my head, kind of.
yeah, and so some of these are like personal preferences. We also noticed that some of the dad hats that we had, those sold out fairly quick. And
Sold, I think,
yeah, the pink,
both of these.
yeah, we sold out all of those. And then the hat you're wearing this past time, we sold out all of those as well. So that's
I got
definitely,
mine early.
that's it. Yep. You know somebody.
But that's also important.
Yeah.
So you when you were going around and asking, you were like, what vendors are you using? Where are you buying? You would see
Mhm.
somebody had something and you would ask them maybe, how is this work? Or is this a good seller for you? And then you would say if they had kind of a trucker hat, which maybe you liked, but you didn't like that real firm lift off hat that my grandpa wore. Um, uh, then you'd say, well, where did you get this hat? Is that what you're kind of saying? Like
Sure.
going to some of these festivals first and seeing who is around? Because sometimes it's like, I don't think this will be a good venue if you just go instead of paying the table fee. And if it's in another city, you have to drive there and pay for a
Right.
hotel and stuff like that. It may be worth going as a just a
Mhm.
attendee first and
Right.
seeing if it's going to be worth it for the investment, right?
Yeah, definitely.
And then you just ask questions. You were willing to not have to just fall on your face. You said, hey, where did you get this? What vendor? And
Yeah.
most people, I think Creative South is really great because people are really friendly and nice. But so at that, then you didn't have to just get one to see what the vendor was like. You already knew because you had seen some other products from that vendor. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of some of it. Yeah. And
So,
then,
like the barbecue hat, how many did you get? Because color wise might not be the same as somebody else's.
right. So, this one's a brown one. And so I got, I think a run of maybe just a small run of like maybe 10 or so. And then I also have a burgundy,
Oh, nice.
so that way I've got a couple of different colorways. They both fit. And that's one of the other fun parts about this is the thinking of, okay, we got some different colorways and different hats that we can do. Like the hat that you're wearing, I've got another one of these, but the coloration is teal, kind of like the same moss bottom hollow teal, but it's got a moss bottom hollow on there, but it's a teal
Nice.
trucker hat like this. Um, and so just kind of making some of those decisions. What will some of these look like with the patches?
Now you did something this past year that I don't know if you did the first year, and this was work for Sophie, but you were able to get custom. This is my beaver. So see, Sophie, I love beavers. I drew him, and then somebody made him for me. So, but you got to, and he has the trucker hat on, I think. But that was another option. So how? Because this was like an upsell. I wasn't going to be coming home with it. This was going to be time, and I also think that this is really interesting because I don't know a lot of 10 or 11-year olds that are going to sit down and create. So this is custom. You took custom made it, and then you had to paint it, and then you had to send it to me. And luckily, it was already paid for. But like this is a commitment by your parents, but also by you. If you had gotten 40 of these, so I don't know how many you sold. Do you know how many custom portraits you sold?
Several of them. The first year, I
Over
think,
40?
no.
I mean, because that would be a lot. Would you have said, I can't do anymore, Dad. We got to take this off the table.
I think the first year we did 3, 4 of them. There's several people who like first there's just someone who asked me, can you draw? They saw because you know how you've seen my booth before, so you know how I have those little paintings right there. Like there's several people who asked, are those for sale?
Yeah.
And and then I think somebody asked me again, and then we kind of got that idea for
So
that.
So to do, yeah, we did commission work there at the booth. And I think one of the
But you were
things
doing it at home. It wasn't like, right? Were you going to send them to everybody or were
that,
you doing them
No,
at
we
the
were doing
booth?
it at the booth.
yeah, we're doing it at the booth the first year. And
Whoa, that's pressure.
it is. And we figured out that that was a little bit of pressure. So we limited as far as that, we're only going to do so many here at the booth during if there's somebody who wants to commission, then
I was fine with it getting sent to me. It was like fun to get it. Like that was I mean, I didn't mind, but I know I've paid for things from other kids of friends, and then I've never gotten them. So I know. So I actually really think that there's something, and I love this. It lives right here on my wall back here, but I wanted to bring it closer. But so it takes something from y'all, but also like from Sophie, you don't want to like burn her out,
Right.
like we got another 5 to do this weekend or 15 or 20 or
Mhm.
something. It would be like, oh my gosh, the joy is gone,
Right.
Right. So how did it work this time? So did you do some that were on the floor? You would get some done during Creative South?
Yeah, kind of that way. But one of the things we found, like, people would make certain requests, like you requested a beaver. And like there was one person who was a vegetarian, but they really like barbecue, so like could he be holding a banana? And somebody else, wasn't it wanting Grumpy Frog holding a donut, Daddy?
I think you just drew the one with the donut. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That's
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah. So yeah, I think this time we limited one per so many hours. So we're going to do one commission, and that way we're limiting how much is to be done. So there's no pressure to try to get everything up and out. So therefore she's still able to enjoy the conference and and then work on them at, leisure.
Because I didn't mind. I don't even remember how long it took. I don't remember. I just remember I was super happy when I got it. But
Mhm.
so, how, if, say, she was just flooded with these commissions, like how many would you do? Would you want her to be doing in a week? Like, or would you say, we're going to raise the price so that less people ask for
Yeah.
commissions?
I would probably raise price just because
Like,
that's
how many is too many? Because I think about this as she's she's
yeah,
almost 12,
right.
she's got other things going on,
Yeah.
ballet,
Hmm.
there's other things. So, I mean, what would be, because I think this is a parent decision, but it's also like,
Yeah.
I want her to understand that there's some production. You have to do this,
Mhm.
but it's also, I don't want to draw Grumpy Frog anymore.
Right. Yeah. I mean, we haven't really come to that conclusion as far as right now because we haven't had anybody outside of Creative South, like during Creative South, ask for commission pieces. So that would be something to really think about. I would think at this point, no more than two a month, probably.
Okay, that's
Just
good.
just so that you have them there. There's deadlines, but also you're not, burning out with that. Because
Yeah.
again, the biggest thing is trying to keep this enjoyable.
Yes, for sure. Okay, so I know you've done one other event besides Creative South, right?
We've done two.
Two.
Okay,
So
so
one of them was Pumpkin Palooza in LaGrange.
okay,
Georgia. Yeah.
that's where I
Um,
get gas. Kex at 18.
um,
Yep.
but that one it was a little bit slower. We didn't have as many people there.
How many vendors were there for the whole
There was,
Pumpkin Palooza?
I think there was probably 10 vendors would be my guess.
Okay, so it was much smaller.
It was much smaller. It was at a farm. I think it was the first year that they were
Yeah, it
doing
was
it.
first.
And
Hmm.
so it's kind of an intro, but also that kind of gave a good a good feeling or a good feel for what do other events, what are they like?
Had y'all
And
been to other events just as consumers, like attendees, and you're thinking, oh, this would be a great place for Grumpy Frog, or you hadn't kind of put those two and two together?
yeah, I hadn't really put those two together for the most part. The only other like event type things we've been to have been we have a thing downtown called Market Days. So we have people that set up on Saturdays in the springtime throughout the summer selling and vending on the Broadway downtown Columbus. And
Have
so
y'all ever done that?
we haven't. We've thought about it, but
Do you have to commit for the whole? Because it's a lot of weekends, right?
yeah, that's correct. It's every weekend from I think it's like April until it moves in through fall. And you don't have to there's a one, you know, fee for the whole season or for the whole time.
Right,
So one blanket fee, you go and you set up at the same spot and but you don't have to be there.
right.
You don't want to, but you know, you're open to go there every weekend.
But that's a lot of commitment for
That is. That is.
somebody so young,
So taking a
or
look at
somebody.
oh, go ahead.
No, you go.
I was going to say, yeah, just taking a look at probably would be the best thing to do is take a look at different festivals or maybe even conferences that would fit if we're going to go do that. Because I think um, Jimmy from Atomic Child, he was at Creative South when Sophie first started, first one. He said, you know, one of the things that he had done was he would go to different festivals and different places uh, and just try to test to see are these places that I would that my target audience would be.
Hmm. So, Sophie, do you know who your target audience is? Like, who buys your stuff the most?
Hmm.
Men or women?
I don't know. It's kind of it.
Both. Okay.
You got a
Is
good
it people with kids or people single or no kids? You don't have to be single. Do you know?
It's kind of less people with kids, but we did set up at another place, the place that I take ballet, Clement Arts, and there were a lot of kids there who were like, "Oh, I'm going past there and like, ooh, I want that."
Mhm.
I
So,
want this.
Sophie, you got to stand up because I want to see your shirt because your shirt
Yeah.
is it's lily pad, right? I
Yeah.
love that and love the color. So, adding shirts or adding because I went to the website and I looked, I love that shirt in non-youth. I love that one. I think I was like, oh, they don't have it. I can't fit in a youth shirt. Um, but I love that color, and you had some great colors and great things. So also something where you've chosen to add another product. But can you talk a little bit about adding a product that's not going to cost you anything to put on? Can you talk a little bit about so at which
Sure.
point, like where in the history of the Grumpy Frog business did you make a website?
That was we did the website. We had planned on doing one a little bit earlier, like after Second Creative South.
Mm-hmm.
She took some of the money set aside from that to go ahead and I think we purchased the domain name in 2023 in hopes at some point to
Right.
move forward with
Hosting
that.
and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, and then it was this year that we went ahead and started building out the site.
So where do you host your site? Is it like Shopify or is it on WordPress or is it
Well,
Squarespace?
yeah, right now it is. We have a Wix account.
Okay.
Wix is where
The
and the
one I
only
didn't mention.
right. And the only reason we did was because one of the I guess it was Pumpkin Palooza. We wanted to make sure that we had different ways to accept payments. Because the first year we were at Creative South, payments that we only had were Venmo and PayPal and cash. And so that limited us as far as, I mean, now most people have one of three of those,
Right.
but it's easier to pull out your credit card or tap with your Apple payments and such, or Google payments. And so we went out and bought a Square reader. So I bought that for Pumpkin Palooza that way because I wasn't sure who would be there as far as customers.
And you didn't have to have a website for that at that point, right? You can just do Square. You just say what the price is and you just run it through your phone, right?
Yep.
Okay.
And so since at that point I had already purchased a point of sale system that for us, it was the best because there's I think no monthly fees it's just, you're there, you have your account. When they do the swipe, then that's when the fees get pulled from you. And because I had Square account, I needed to find a website hosting company that would integrate with Square. And so that's the reason why I went with Wix, because they that was compatible. I could bring that in and still use that payment processing through the website there. Now, if you go to Shopify, I think they have their own POS system that they will give you. So that way you've got the hosting site, et cetera, et cetera. It's kind of a big package deal. But for us, that's kind of our journey from where we're at.
And it's a lot more money for Shopify per month, right?
It is. That is monthly. So those are other things that you have to take into account, especially how large your company is, how much revenue that you're bringing in, and can you shift over to that yet or not? And right now we're not we're not there yet, but those are things to think about. And so the nice thing that having a online site allows you, or store that allows you, is the print on demand features. And so with
that's
Wix,
Sophie's shirt.
That's correct. And that's Sophie's shirt. And so we were able to get onto, I think Printful is the print on demand company that we are connected with. And so it's nice. The pros to it is that you're not paying out of pocket right away for anything. It's just as soon as something gets purchased, you get a percentage of that.
And some of those are like, say the shirt costs them $10. You can say, hey, I want to sell it for $18. And then they do the shipping. Everything is handled through them. But if something doesn't go right, then, if it gets, I don't know if you can even return stuff off that. I've never had that happen, but it is nice. Again, no money off your back, but it's nice to have a sample to be able to show. So I think you wear that sample super well. Okay. So I'm going to ask these last questions kind of rapid fire here. So Harrison, this one's to you, first, let's say, so Sophie, how do you describe, if somebody were to call you a product designer, or you were saying to somebody, whether it's an adult or a kid, how would you describe Grumpy Frog is a product and you have designed things? So can you define product designer in that way, with being, you make products? Do you think you could do that, Sophie? Do you like coming up with new products to sell, I guess is what I'm asking?
Yes.
Okay.
I do.
So what, you had stickers first, and then magnets and stickers, right? Hand in hand, then hats. Then what was next? And Sophie, are you driving this, or is Dad finding things and is like, hey, let's try this? Or
It's
a little
kind
bit of both?
of best. Like one of my favorite products is probably the little button pack. And my dad said, "Hey, what about some buttons? Do you think you'd like that idea?" I was like, "Oh, yeah, I'd really like that." And so we tried that out, and those are a pretty good seller. So, yes, he kind of will suggest things, and like sometimes I'll make some changes or I'll
So
say, "Oh, yes, I love this."
you told me one thing that you would really like to make that y'all haven't made yet. Can you tell everybody what that is?
A plushie, a Grumpy Frog plushie.
So tell people just in case they don't know what my mom would not know what a plushie was. So explain what it is.
It's like a little stuffed animal of a Grumpy Frog, basically. So,
Perfect. And that's a lot of customization and usually you have some minimums and they take some time and hopefully you get your investment back. But if
Yeah.
you were to have a plushie, would it be like small or would it be like how big?
probably a smaller one,
Like smaller than your head or like the size of your head?
probably about the size of my head.
Okay. Well, that's good. Good to know. Okay. Plushies hopefully are in the future.
Yeah.
Okay.
Would
Maybe a
you have
giant
ever
one.
Maybe.
would you have ever just described yourself as a product designer, Harrison?
Um, not to begin with, not until after, you know, getting into helping Sophie out with her Grumpy Frog venture. Um, so
Yeah.
yeah.
It's funny because I mean, I've had products as well, and I don't think I would have ever described myself as a product designer, but to be honest, you're designing products and you're figuring things out. And so it is one of the arms of product design. Okay, so Harrison, here's these, and you guys can both answer, but this one's for your dad. So, Harrison, how has your traditional graphic design experience helped you in deciding which products to invest in?
I think it's the from my experience of design, just the things that I guess I would enjoy. That's kind of one of the things like what can I design and seeing that um that can be taken places that people can take places or enjoy. Like for instance, hats. Hats are something that um throw on. You walk out. I've had people ask when I've been wearing a barbecue shack hat. Hey, where's Barbecue's Barbecue Shack? Um,
You're like
and
Mossy Bottom.
right, yeah, yeah, and so things that you can people can take with them that would enjoy. I think we recently this week I put some mugs on the shop. You know, having a cup of coffee with a Grumpy Frog mug. Things that would that I would like to design that would make me smile and make
Yeah.
others smile. So
All right, this one's another one for you, Harrison. So, what are some of what you think are the biggest benefits that you've seen in Sophie as a result of doing this?
I think one of the biggest things benefits for her has been. I think the first one is overcoming some of her shyness and being able to um, learn a little bit of customer service. At this age, I didn't have the opportunity to really do that at this age that she's at.
Were
I think
you
that's
shy as a kid?
um, in some cases, I probably was a little bit. Um, So yeah, that was one thing that I'd probably say that probably would have helped because story with Stephanie, or my wife, she said that she was also extremely shy, and it wasn't until she was forced to um, greet customers at the job that she was at one time that kind of broke her of her shyness. So that's one thing, the customer service and being able to speak with people. Then also decisions on, you
Hmm.
know, as far as the business goes, like what does this look like? The creativity of the world building,
Mhm.
because that's and storytelling, that is a big part of what we're doing, is telling a story. Um, so I think there's a couple of benefits, and then just also working with somebody else, which is, of course, myself, for a specific goal. That's the brainstorm process. And then also a little bit of the last part, I think, would be a little bit of economics of a business, like
Yeah.
seeing, okay, we're spending this much money. Um, yeah, we made this much money, but do we really make this much money? This money has just covered our costs.
Hmm.
And how much does that go back into the business? How much do we get paid from that? How much do we give? That type of stuff.
So, are there any monetary or financial goals for the business for the year? Is that something like you're setting together, or all three of you together at the beginning, or is that something like we are going to do that from now on? We're just kind of figuring it out. But if somebody was doing this with their dad or with their mom or with their child, do you think it's important that they have a goal, whether that be financial or not, but some sort of goal for this venture?
Yeah, I think goals are definitely important. That uh, if you don't have a vision of what your company or business is what you're looking to do or achieve, then you have a good percentage of potentially failing. That's why branding is so important, because part of the thing that you begin to figure out is what is your business about,
Yeah.
vision that you have. So having some sort of goals set up for the year, whether it's monetarily or for us, I would think going to the events, are we going to at the very least make what we have put into it? Because usually that means we don't completely sell out, but we still have product to carry on for another event. Also, getting our name out there is another goal. Like, how can we grow our audience?
Yeah. Okay. So, um, Sophie, what has been your favorite product so far?
The buttons. I
Oh,
love the little buttons.
oh, that's cool.
My favorite.
That's awesome. Okay. One thing we talked about a little bit on the pre-show was how do you measure quality? So if you're thinking about t-shirts or the hats, we talked a little bit about maybe it's what you would want, but even we talked about different stickers. We're not going to mention any other names, but you use Sticker Mule. One reason is for quality because it has stood up. So, what are some things that you have seen that are important to know when you're buying stickers?
Yeah, like one of the things, as you had mentioned, there was another company that we had bought some stickers from, and one of the Cecil Salamanders, the run that they had, they would either fade quick, or the top protective layer would actually peel off. And so that reflects on you as a business when you are selling a product. So you want to make sure that you have, something that's going to be quality. If somebody's spending money for you, you want to build that trust. And so that's why I've pretty much stayed with Sticker Mule, because we know that their quality has been good. It's held up. Plus the the pricing sometimes is fantastic, and the deals that they run are excellent.
Well, I think Sophie had her water bottle, and a lot of people put stickers on water bottles. So it's also thinking about how your customer uses it and what
Right.
happens to the water bottle. It gets wet. And so
Mhm.
it needs to not peel off when it gets wet. So that's another kind of quality that some people might not realize, like, oh, or they put it on their car and you don't want it to fade or peel off or things like that.
Right.
Knowing and doing stuff like that, I think it's an important. I think that's an important part.
Yeah. And
So
there are companies like some of the other sticker companies that will you can request like a sample pack of stickers. So they'll send you a sample pack, and so you can see all their products, and it's maybe $5 for that. So you can kind of gauge the feel of what they offer. I know we did that with we were looking at some enamel pins at maybe at some point, and we looked at I think it was Wizard pins, and they gave you I think it's like their little set of pins, and it was I think maybe $10 for the set, so you can take a look and see what they offer.
so
So I
taking
would
advantage of some of those things is really helpful.
yeah, and then getting I think gosh I can't remember. Take a look at also if you're looking at products as far as wearables, finding wholesalers or large outlet places that will sell um, some of the different hats. Buying, just quantity of one on different types, just so you can feel them, see them for yourself. That way, again, you're not out of pocket a whole bunch of money. You're able to just kind of see that. And also, if you buy a shirt from someplace and you like the feel of it, that's another thing. Like, okay,
Mm,
ask somebody, where did you get this? Or sometimes you'll see, like with some of the shirts, they'll have the printed in tags, but they'll also have maybe belly and canvas will have just the little tags that can be easily ripped off, but it has this is the company that
right.
was used. And so that way you find out, okay, I like this brand, so I want to use that shirt.
Have you ever thought, so instead of just selling direct to customer, have you ever thought about going around to some of the places in Columbus and see if they would carry some of her products?
There have been there's been at least one that we've taken a look at, and there are monthly, at least that one place was a monthly
Fee?
fee
Mm.
to house it. So um that's one of the things we have to take a look at too, is what the cost is monthly
What
to
if there was no cost? It was like, no, we just want to put her product in our store. We'll do a wholesale order. Have you thought about going, not where it's a fee to you, they
yeah,
pay you, no
yeah.
fee, right?
Yeah, I'd be yeah, I would do it. I'd go check it out.
Yeah. So I think sometimes just knowing what that first wholesale order, the initial order has to be $150 or it has to
Mhm.
be, a certain amount
Yeah.
to get. I think that that's interesting. Okay. So, I'm trying to make sure that I have everything at least that I've wanted to go over. Okay, Sophie, how many times per week do you draw characters that potentially might be part of the series? Or are you like always drawing lots of different worlds?
So I try to draw some Grumpy Frog stuff at least once a week.
Okay. Do you draw other things? Have you ever thought about writing a book?
Yes, I've thought about that, and like I've said before, trying to do some comics and stuff. But I know me and one of my friends are trying to write a book together, not about Grumpy Frog, but about a different subject, Mr.
Oh,
Frog
nice.
or whatever. So,
That's cool. All right. So you did talk about giving. So you are tithing, because I know you love Jesus too. So I just thought
Yep.
we could, is there anything in that part of what you're making? Because I'm like, what if you went huge and is this college money? Do you just say, oh, Sophie, you can go buy with something in the toy aisle? So I was asking like, what are you doing with these funds? And you had talked about there's definitely your tithing, and then most of it's just going back into the business because it is small and you're making investments in new products and things like that. But can you talk a little bit about the choice to do tithing and to put it back into the business?
Yeah, so number one, since we are, Christians and have faith, that's just one of the it's a joy to be able to give back. We've been blessed with what we have so far, and those who have been able to come and support us, and the reception that we get for, Grumpy Frog has been, great. So it's a joy to be able to give back in that extent when it comes to tithing. Um, and if we are able to get to a point where this does make more, one of the things that we'd love to be able to do as far as giving is concerned is that the first year in 2023 at Creative South, Sophie actually won it was the first year award that they had done, and she won an award which got her an iPad. And so that was very special to us. And so if we were able to give back into something like that for upcoming creatives, then that's something that, we'd love to be able to do in the future.
Because that's also tithing in a way. You're giving
Yeah.
back to other people who have made a difference, even if it's not just because she got an award. It's not because of that anyway.
Yeah.
But like they've given her lots of encouragement. It was a great place to first start. And I just think that is a neat part of the story. And congratulations for winning an iPad, Sophie.
Thank you.
And so, yeah, and then just, putting back the rest into, investing in the company just to what else, what would be the next thing that would be fun, or what do we need to restock,
Yeah. All right. So what is coming? What is next? What's the next thing we could be looking for? I don't know if plushies are in the near future or if there's, we just need to be coming to Creative South and there will be some new things there. Maybe some limited edition, custom pieces, which I always really enjoy. But what else? What's next? What's something, are you going to do anything for Black Friday?
No, we're not going to do anything for Black Friday.
She said that super fast.
We haven't really had any plans or thought of that for, advertising or anything, but yeah, plushies would be great. I know that there's a business for specific plushies, and I think they're called, I can't remember the name of the company, but basically they're crowdfunded source. So if you have a large following, that makes it easier. But it is one of those where it's crowdfunded, where you can do, hey, we're going to do a Grumpy Frog plushie, and this is when the campaign starts, and this is when it ends. Now, of course, it's going to take a little bit longer to get it, just because it's crowdfunded. That's another option as far as being able to get a plushie done without having to come out of pocket a whole bunch.
Right.
And so I'm not sure what the proceeds would be as far as money getting back, because I'm sure it's one of those, they have to make so much of a run, you might break even, which is fine. That means we got Grumpy Frog plushies out there. And so that would be fun. But I think right now it is trying to get our audience maybe expanded.
So growing the audience is what your focus is now. And making sure people know that if they touch toads, it doesn't mean they're going to get warts.
That's right.
Well, I want to make sure everybody knows how they can go and find out more about you and hunt for some shirts and some hats and stickers and buttons and other things that are on your website, which is gcgrumpyfrog.com. Very good that you got that GC under there, I think. And then you can always follow them on Instagram at gcgrumpyfrog at instagram.com/gcgrumpyfrog. I guess I should have said that. Well, I'm excited. I have two things. I have a little Sparky that you guys made me, and I love my painting. So I'm going to go put that back up on my wall right there. And so I can see it every day. And I can't wait to see what is next and the buttons that you have and more magnets and more characters. So I think it's pretty neat that you draw something Grumpy Frog or Moss Bottom land world at least once a week. That's pretty interesting. That's a good commitment, Sophie. Anyway, I love that you came up with this and that you keep creating the world. And I love that your dad knows enough about brands and that he can create this stuff for you and then help just feed into your imagination. So I just love you both. And I'm excited that you guys were on the show today. So thank you.
Yeah. Thanks for having us.
Absolutely. Any last words for somebody who is like you, Sophie? Maybe they draw a lot, but they don't really know what to do with it. What would you tell them so that they wouldn't get discouraged about their characters or their illustrations?
Well, I just say keep going forward with it. But if you kind of feel discouraged, like you can try another character and can try different things. And if you like your artwork, then you can start continuing forward with it.
It's good to show your artwork too, right? Like instead of just keeping it in your notebook and not showing anybody. Sometimes you never know. Yeah. Who you drawing that thing, Grumpy Frog, made Mike look at it and said, hey, I'm going to add him into my thing. And just it takes a lot of bravery to show your art, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So good job. Keep going. And you're telling people to just keep going. If you get stuck with one character, go to another one. There's plenty in your mind, right?
Yep.
That's awesome. All right. So you guys can make sure you can check them out at gcgrumpyfrog.com. And thank you guys so much. And we are continuing our product design series through the end of the year. So there will be other people with products like y'all, and then there will be other people who are the other kind of product designer. But you guys are both product designers. You can wear that as another label on your hat.
Yep.
Thank y'all so much, and I will see you guys soon.